What's trending? Presented by Tim Daly Nissan, part of the Tim Daly Auto Group, serving Utah since 1968. It's Hilton versus Marriott, but it's at Hilton tonight. BYU at number 6, Iowa State. The Cougars just pulled off a road top 10 win in historic Fog Allen Fieldhouse. It's a lot to ask BYU to go and do this again in back-to-back weeks.
Do it again. Let's go. Why not?
So what is the roadmap to replicating what was just an iconic win last week and beating Iowa State for a second time this season and sweeping the Cyclones?
I would assume it's like I-70 or 80 East initially, but you look at Iowa State, they're so good, dude. Number 8 in net, number 2 defensive efficiency team in the country. By the way, BYU's 87 points in Provo, still the most allowed by Iowa State all year. 15-point win is the largest loss by Iowa State this year. So BYU got them early when they've gotten even better, right? Cougar stats with 2 good points here. Iowa State gives up the 9th highest ratio of threes taken per game defensively.
Yes.
Threes will be available. BYU, for whatever reason, as good as the defense is for Iowa State, they allow 3-point field goals.
Yeah.
Now, they don't always go in. Like, they're a good defense. They don't allow a ton of points, so they must contest those shots well.
Okay.
BYU did go 13 of 35 in Provo.
I was going to say they made 13.
If BYU can get to that number tonight in both, they have a good shot.
They might win again.
They might win. And then the other thing is you got to take care of the ball. Second highest turnover rate in the country defensively for Iowa State. They turn you over. BYU only turned it over 16% of the time at home in that win. Second lowest percentage Iowa State has allowed all year. I guess second worst in that regard. So tornado pun here. Weather the storm. Like you did against Kansas. BYU was down 12. They came back. They were down 17 at halftime. They came back. I don't want to see how far this can go per se. Like if BYU can avoid any kind of big deficit, that'd be great. But what a big game, Spence. Top 15 matchup in net, top 20 in AP poll. If BYU wins this, like they could be a 4 seed in Lenardi suddenly. BYU won this game by 15 and played really well. This is
the best win of the year, is it not?
By net. I mean, perception is Kansas. We'll talk about this in a second, Spence, but that, to me, that's the roadmap. You gotta make threes. You gotta take care of the basketball. Those are things that you would like to do every game, but especially against Iowa State, who is allowing threes and turning you over.
They're gonna get after it. Speaking of Iowa State, like they are super physical. Yeah, I feel like BYU cannot get down by double digits in tonight's game. I know that BYU erased a 12-point deficit at Kansas. That was wild. They just overcame a 17-point halftime deficit against TCU, but that was in Provo. I feel like if BYU gets down by double figures, especially early, at Hilton, they're in big trouble.
What's early? First 10?
Yes.
First half?
Like I just feel like they can't afford to do that in a place that is as tough as that to play. Their fans, we've joked about, their fans are, I've been following this on social media, just like watching what Iowa State fans are saying in preparation for this game. They are seriously, they are out for blood tonight.
Because they got beat up.
Embarrassed in Provo.
Yeah, hey, headband dude, gotcha.
Weren't they down by as many as 20? They were down by that many. I think they were down by 20. And Provo, that doesn't happen to Iowa State.
They were number 24 at the time, so they were like, interesting. That was a really good win. But look, number 6.
They are wow, and a legitimate top 10 team. Iowa State feels like they still have an outside shot at getting a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. They feel like, hey,
so why not?
If we win out here and then we go and win in Kansas City and we win the conference tournament championship, like if maybe if Iowa State ties Houston in the regular season and then they win the tournament championship, they feel like they deserve the number 1 seed. So and it's senior night.
They still have a shot.
There's a ton to play for.
This is
for the Cyclones.
This is the Lion's Den, but maybe BYU's Daniel.
This is Gonzaga on senior night, but better. This is. We all talked about the kennel, like, oh man, it's so tough to win up there. This is another level.
But better. Wow.
Yeah, this is tougher to win in than the kennel, which BYU did on a couple of senior nights. So don't get down by double figures. I feel like it's almost like an alligator jaw or crocodile jaw. Like if you get down double figures, like you're not getting out of that. Like it's over.
Well, we thought that last week too.
Well, at home though, like I didn't. Like at Kansas, I was like, ooh, it's going to be tough. You're down 12 in the second half.
And the hope is that other team doesn't make any threes or free throws.
Iowa State defends a lot better than Kansas. And Kansas is a pretty good defensive team. Iowa State is an elite defensive team. And I feel like they have a better home court advantage. BYU making 13 threes at home was monumental. and it was a better percentage than they missed kind of a handful of threes at the end. But they got red hot. They had that burst ability. If BYU makes even 10 tonight, Jarom, I like where they could potentially be. If they can make 10 threes on the road and shoot 32%, those numbers, or 11. Like my magic number tonight for BYU is 11 threes. You make 11 and it's better than 32%, they're going to have a great shot.
BYU has made double-digit threes in 3 road games this year. Texas Tech made 13. At West Virginia made 13. At Kansas made 13. In all of those, BYU got up 39, 36, 34 threes. You got to get in that range.
You won 2 of those 3. You had a 17-point lead in the other, which dwindled.
Yeah. At Baylor, you only make 9. At UCF, you make 9, but you squeeze out a win. At Oklahoma, you make 8, you lose big. At Oklahoma State, you make 8, you lose big. At Utah, you only make 7, you lose close. At Kansas State, you make 6, you lose by
10 is the minimum for BYU to be in this game. I think 11 might be the magic number tonight for the Cougars.
Depends, too, how many times BYU gets to the free throw line. Like, if the threes are going and you're getting to the line, hey, that's a recipe to win. They got to the stripe a lot against Iowa State. I believe 20 of 24. In some games, I'm looking at BYU where if the three's not going down, it's like, well, what else are you doing? Like, are you only in, like, live and die by the 3? It's like, there are other ways to score. You don't have to just jack up threes. Anyone can just jack up threes. But BYU is really good, obviously, at making and taking. You have 4.5 guys at a time that can shoot the 3. When Ali is on the floor, you have 5. When Foose is on the floor, you have one-on-ones with Foose. So let's see if BYU can't pull off another one, dude. If BYU pulls this off, it's pretty interesting, which brings us to topic 2, bro. Would a win at Iowa State be better than the win at Kansas?
Statistically speaking, and looking at the metrics, yes. This would be a better win. Iowa State is a better team than Kansas this season. And I know that they both, till last week, had undefeated home records. BYU took care of that at the Phog.
What if BYU knocks off both undefeated?
Jarom, we're talking about BYU being a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament then.
Yes. They would be a 4 suddenly. In
that quality of a win in Ames. And there's a reason that BYU is given a 20% chance. It's the smallest chance that BYU has been given in any game this season. It's not close. 20% chance to win at Iowa State. Ken Pom has BYU as a 33% chance, and I think a 5 or a 6-point underdog. I checked yesterday, it was 5. It might be 6 today. We'll see. But regardless, BYU is the clear underdog. We're talking about a top 10 net team, the number 6 team in the AP poll, and the second-place team in the Big 12. BYU, until last night in Kansas's win, was tied with Kansas. Clearly, there's no debate. This would be, by the metrics,
look at that note.
A better win.
Look at that note in yellow, by the way. BYU is a combined 2-0 against Iowa State and Kansas.
That is unbelievable.
Let's make it 3-0.
So not only would, by the metrics, it'd be a better win, but what this could potentially propel BYU to do, not just in the Big 12 tournament, but like I said, I think this is the type of win that bumps you up a seed line in Lenardi's bracketology.
It should. It's a 2 seed right now. It's 6 in the rankings.
Because now there's nothing fluky about winning at Kansas. It's like, oh man, BYU won at Kansas and at Iowa State.
And more importantly, BYU's hot at the end of the year. You would have road win. Your last 2 road games are at Kansas, Iowa State, and you win.
Jarom, who would have a better win in conference than BYU?
Kansas if they win at Houston on Saturday.
That's the only way.
Yeah, that would be the best one. BYU has one of the best ones. I would argue any win against Houston right now is better than BYU's win at Kansas, just because of how many games Kansas has lost in the league. But at Iowa State? But if BYU wins at Iowa State, pretty good. So, yeah, has anyone beaten Houston in the Fertitta Center? I can't recall.
No, they're undefeated at home.
They're undefeated as well.
Yes.
Everybody undefeated until BYU shows up, I guess. Big-time win. BYU's got the confidence and ability to do this. Now, if let's say BYU doesn't show up tonight and they lose by 14 or whatever. Not a big deal. You're not supposed to win there anyway.
No.
Beat Oklahoma State, you move on to Kansas City, and you're good. But what if BYU wins this? Like you said, yes, it's a better win. The perception is not that it's a better win, though. Like, it won't lead SportsCenter or be the second thing like it was last week, because Kansas has the program prestige and the tradition. It won't it won't have the national splash if BYU wins tonight, but that doesn't matter as much as what the NCAA tournament selection committee thinks.
Sure, and
it's
Iowa
fun
State
to have the spotlight.
Yeah,
but
Iowa
what the
State doesn't
committee
have,
thinks is a bigger deal on Selection Sunday.
They don't have all the crazy streaks that BYU broke that Kansas had rolling. Like they had won 82 straight games
when they had halftime.
And they had won 63 games in a row against unranked opponents.
Those are fun. I don't really care. Like what as much as 8 in net. Now Now they would drop just a touch, and BYU would continue to go up. But this would ensure that BYU's at least, if BYU wins tonight, they are no worse than a 5 and probably a 4. And guess what? They have a shot at the 4 seed in that double bye, like we talked about yesterday. So that would be big time. Hopefully BYU can make threes, defend well. Listen, they're going to have to overcome amazing defense. BYU's got to out-offense the amazing defense. It's going to be a fun battle to watch. And can BYU defend at the level they did in Provo as well? Let's go. BYU's had big wins this year. Keep it going. Look at these big wins. 4 different ranked teams. 4 different teams in the net that are top 20 at the moment. No regular season team has done that we've never put up that graphic. In 1984, BYU Sports Nation, oh wait, it didn't exist. They would not have put that graphic up because they could not.
Sure.
This is one of the greatest regular season BYU teams ever. Will it be one of the best BYU teams overall ever? The NCAA tournament will decide that.
Wild opportunity for BYU tonight. If you beat Iowa State, then you are on a fast track for a double bye in Kansas City. More than likely, you are going to be 11-7 and now legitimize that you will be the 4 seed.
If Texas Tech loses to Baylor,
then you become huge Baylor fans on Saturday.
Yeah.
Right.
You want Baylor to be the 3 and push Texas Tech down.
Frankly, you're all Baylor fans on Saturday, regardless of what happens tonight against BYU. If you want BYU and Texas Tech to match up in Kansas City or be in that side of the bracket, you are rooting super hard for Baylor on Saturday. Cannot wait for tonight's game and just another opportunity. This is
it beats
this
playing
is the Big
Pepperdine.
12. Think about who BYU has faced in the last 5 games, including tonight. Okay, so you beat Baylor at home, you go on the road and lose at Kansas State, then you win at Kansas, then you beat TCU, and now you get to go to Iowa State.
Miss Pacific, said no one.
Our question of the day: if BYU wins tonight against 6th-ranked Iowa State, would that be a better win than the win at Kansas?
What say ye, people?
At Andrew Streeter _ on X says, yes, it's hard to sweep in a season, let alone on the road, let alone against a top 10 team.
Here's the thing, though, and I would say the same thing of 2009 BYU football versus Oklahoma and 1990 BYU versus Miami. We forget that BYU was also the 20th best team in the country in both of those games. The Cougars can hang. Will they show up tonight, and will they make enough threes? They certainly can, but will they? I'm excited to watch.
It's funny, yeah, and you talk about the prestige and just the nostalgia and how much history Kansas has. For all those reasons and all the streaks that BYU broke, and it was unexpected. It was coming off a loss to Kansas State.
Unfortunately, BYU's not doing your bounce back theory thing tonight.
There was I know.
If BYU had lost against TCU, would be oh, they're going to show up tonight for sure.
Hey, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But people will always circle that as just a special win. It kind of reminds me of, on the football side, BYU won at Tennessee. Tennessee was a good team that year. They went 8-5, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, road win versus 8-win team is big time.
But BYU has had much better wins in the recent past than that win at Tennessee. But it was Rocky Top.
It's Rocky Top and checkered.
It's the SEC.
It's
all
Peyton Manning,
that. People are that was incredible.
Yeah, it's
right.
Yeah, it's all that.
I mean, but BYU's had, by the numbers, several better wins than that in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
They're just not as history rich. And that's okay. That's totally okay. Iowa State presents just a wild challenge. Daniel Ormsby on X says, in terms of ranking and strength of schedule, yes, it would be a better win. In terms of environment, no. No one can deny Kansas is having a down year.
Which
How to be to have a down year?
They're a 3 seed, by the way, in Lunardi. I feel you, but they're a 3 seed still.
You're a top 15 team, and you're still projecting as a 3 seed. It's
but you're
down
expected
year.
to be top 5. Yeah.
Gosh.
Exactly.
Iowa State is ahead of them in most categories. So in that aspect, yes, Iowa State would be a better win, but the environment at Kansas will always be better.
Yeah.
What? Well, that's tough because Kansas and Duke. It's like Kansas and Duke, and then everybody else in terms of environment.
Here's how I know it's not as big of a deal. You ain't flying out for this one.
I'm not going to Ames.
You're not going to Ames. No.
I thought about it for a second, then I was like, nope, way too difficult. Way too difficult.
You're busy tomorrow afternoon, bro.
It's true. I got
softball,
a triple header
man.
of softball starting tomorrow. Hashtag BYUSN on X, Facebook, and Instagram to join that conversation. Which win would be better, Kansas or Iowa State, if BYU can pull off another upset tonight?
All of this just to play Gonzaga in the NCAA tournament. It's crazy.